Hi, it's Katie and it's nap time.
Hooray!
And I have a plan for what I want to do for nap time today. I want to work in the garden a little bit and I thought I would bring you along. So let's go. So I finally cleaned off my deck. I think I talked about it in my first garden update for this year. And I just did it this weekend, finally. It's kind of silly to do it too early because when the pollen comes out of the trees, it just makes this whole area horribly yellow and I have to hose it all down. So I cleaned up all of the junk. There's still some junk. It's not like Martha Stewart out here. But I cleaned up all the dangerous junk so that it's at least somewhat baby safe. There was like a saw out here and some polyurethane, things like that. So I took that off the porch and then hosed it down so it looks pretty nice. The garden is doing really well. It's probably the best start to a year that I've had. You can see I even have a red tomato. There's one in my husband's garden too. Here's one of those harlequin beetles. They're like stink bugs. We've had a stink bug problem for the last couple of years, which we never had before. So this is a type of stink bug, and that was what was on my broccoli rabe, which my broccoli rabe, I think I failed. I think you're supposed to eat the buds and get it before it blooms. So it's supposed to eat like when they're like this, but it's all flowered and I never got out here to get it. So I might try to cut off the blooms and see if more buds come up. Let's see. First thing I want to do today is my eggplant has some flea beetle damage. I had eggplants in this exact spot last year and they had flea beetle damage. So I checked them all. They all have at least a little bit of damage. I don't have that much experience with eggplants, so I don't know if it's a common thing. But I'm just going to spray the leaves with some soap water. This is just a dollar store spray bottle, and I just put a sliver of soap in it, the Dr. Bronner's soap, and some water and let it dissolve overnight, and then just shake it up. And it should get rid of those. You can see the damage, quite a bit of damage on this one. So I noticed it here, and this is where I had the eggplants that had damage last year, but I checked all of them and they all have the same damage. And let's see, this eggplant has a fruit already starting to form. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray all of these. So this is a nice midpoint from my last garden update. I always feel tempted to do garden updates more than once a month during this time of year when everything's looking really nice and things are changing a lot over the course of a month. And then by the time it's July and August, everything's starting to look dead and I don't have any motivation to come out here. There's some fruit there because it's so hot, and then the once a month starts sounding really good again. I think that's all of my eggplants. I think, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there might be some here in my husband's garden. So there's also a red tomato. That this one's actually red. The other one was kind of pink. There's a red tomato there, and it was I guess right by Memorial Day. Where we live in Zone 7, it's always 4th of July. If you can get a red tomato before 4th of July, then you're doing good. So we're way ahead of schedule this year, but I'm not complaining. Okay, and then here's the last one. So that's 8 eggplants. That's all of them, and they all have damage. So I don't know if they're just especially susceptible or if they came that way from the nursery. All right, so next I'm gonna harvest some lettuce and some strawberries. I brought a bucket out. Let's see, I left it over here. I also want to get some dill. Might as well get that while I'm over here. I'll get some lettuce off of these plants. And I haven't really been picking that much lettuce, or it's growing faster than I'm picking it. So some of these are actually starting to form heads. But I just come through and pick the outside leaves, so I don't know if you can see how these are kind of coming together in a head. That. I like to pick the leaves. I think that you end up with more as opposed to letting it go to a head and then cutting the head off. But also I think it makes the lettuce more nutritious because the inside of the head, the lettuce is very light and doesn't have as much flavor. And the leaves that are on the outside are darker green. And I mean, I don't know these things for a fact. I don't really know much of anything for a fact, especially in the garden. It's just things I think. And I think that things that are more vibrantly colored or have darker green to them, probably more nutritious for you. So if you pick the outside leaves, then the inside leaves get a chance to get that sunshine, get the chlorophyll going, and they turn this, darker color instead of that really blanched white color. And I grow iceberg lettuce. A lot of people have, sort of a bad attitude about iceberg lettuce. And if you buy a head of iceberg lettuce, like I said, the inside leaves are so blanched and there's hardly anything going for it. It's just crunchy water. That's what JM Drops calls it. You ever watch him? He does like fast food reviews, and he always tells the clerk at the restaurant to not put lettuce on a sandwich, and they do sometimes anyway because it's fast food and they mess up his order. And he always calls it crunchy water because that's all the iceberg lettuce is. Yeah, this one is really turning into a head. And this is a lot more lettuce than I can use, but I like to give away lettuce. It's nice to have homegrown lettuce. It's nice to have enough to share with my neighbors and all that. I have quite a few neighbors that also garden, so if I can get my lettuce to them in the beginning of the year, then when they have fun things coming in later on, like tomatoes and okra and things like that, then I already have my favor in for the season, and they'll remember me whenever their stuff starts coming in. So there's quite a bit of lettuce here, but it's doing good so far. So far nothing has bolted, and everything has tasted wonderful. Nothing too bitter, which can sometimes happen on hot days. And I'm picking this and putting it in this big plastic container. One time, the first year I did a big thing of lettuce like this, I plant it very densely like this because it shades, like each plant will shade the other plants, and it helps keep the weeds down, helps keep the soil from drying out. And so when I started doing this, when you do it this way, you do get a lot of lettuce all at once instead of planting a row and then 2 weeks later planting another row, which is what a lot of people do with lettuce. But you end up getting a lot of lettuce, and if you just continuously pick, you have it for quite a while. Either the plant goes to seed because it gets too hot, or it just gets too old, but for a good long time you have lots of lettuce. So the first year I did it like this, I had so much lettuce, I was so proud of it, and I got my biggest bowl and came out to pick a bunch. And my biggest bowl is my stainless steel industrial prep bowl, and I was picking and picking and picking, and I usually watch the lettuce plant pretty closely because I want to make sure that I'm not, damaging the plant when I remove the leaves. So I'm not really watching the bowl, I was just watching the lettuce, and I was picking and picking and picking, and then when I thought that big stainless steel bowl would have been filled up, I looked over and the bowl was in the sun, and it had gotten so hot that it wilted all of the lettuce that I picked. And I rushed it inside and tried to put it in some ice water to kind of revive it, but it was not gonna be revived. So I had pretty big heartbreak that day. These are the random lettuce plants that showed up in my husband's garden. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest a lot of this too, because I'm not sure if he has plans for certain areas of his garden. I don't want this to be taking up space. Might as well harvest most of it. Leave that center crown and it will keep growing. There's some more over here. I just pull the outside leaves off as close to the base as possible, because where you break it off, what's left on the plant will probably just wilt away anyway. So might as well get the most of it. I pulled all the bolted radishes and the Swiss chard out of here, this end of the bed, but there were some radishes that are not bolted yet. I picked some. They were a little bit pithy. They weren't woody. They weren't exactly prime though. I'll take these inside, see how they are. So that one. You have radishes when they get a really heavy rain, especially after it's been dry a while. The radishes will soak up all the water and explode like this. And then this one's also got this weird hole in it. So this one will probably just go in the compost. It's already bolted anyway. You can see this stalk has started to bolt. So it's probably woody and too hot anyway. Here's my cabbage. All of the pink coloring from the purple cabbage has kind of like leaked down into the green cabbage, which I was expecting, but then it leaves the purple cabbage with no color. It's kind of I guess gray or something there, but it doesn't really affect anything. The brine will turn a little bit darker too. If I had done this all with purple cabbage, it would have, like, the dye would have leaked out of one part and gone into another part, so it all would have been kind of a fuchsia pink color, but it doesn't really bother me. And then this is the apple onion cabbage kraut, and this kind of jar you have to burp. So I see I burp it once a day. The fermentation has settled down, but when you open this slowly, there you go. Woo! It releases the pressure. So all of the bubbles that were held under pressure, just like a soda pop bottle, coming to the surface. So I just burp it a couple times a day in the beginning, especially since the onions and the apples are sweet. They ferment pretty quickly. So I was doing it like 2 or 3 times a day for the first couple of days. Now I just do it once a day. That way it just doesn't build up so much pressure that it could possibly potentially explode. I've never had that happen, but I've heard horror stories of it happening. Let's go get some strawberries. Kitty. So I was a little bit nervous leaving some water in my sink. I haven't had any problems and no leaking happening. Hopefully it won't leak when I open this, which is when it leaked last time. if you watched my last Naptime vlog, which if you did, thank you so much. And thanks for all the nice comments. I knew I'd get great comments. I have great comments on all my videos, but I guess I just wasn't expecting that many super enthusiastic comments, so I appreciate it. Vlogging is new for me, so still trying to figure it out. Dipping my fingers, or my toes, dipping my toes into the water. So we'll see how it goes. Sounds like everything is working just the way it's supposed to, which is nice. So that's gonna do it for today. She's actually waking up upstairs, so I'm gonna go get her. But I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.